Hi, I'm Callum from the Tuesday Review, and today I'm joined by Michael O'Brien from Chaosium. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm very well. How are you, Callum?
Excellent. And you're here with your company, Chaosium.
Yep.
Michael's the Vice President of Chaosium.
I am.
This is not your first time coming to the PAX convention.
Nope.
With Chaosium. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So PAX is a series of conventions. This is PAX Australia.
Yep.
They also have several PAX conventions over in the United States as well. I'm actually going to one of those later this year called PAX Unplugged. This is one of the biggest popular culture and gaming conventions in Australia, probably the biggest.
Yep.
In fact, I'm sure it's the biggest.
Oh,
by
massive,
far.
yeah.
And we've been coming here for about the last 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
Every year it's got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Well, tabletop is really booming at the moment.
It really is. You can see behind us here we've got just table after table of people playing demo
games. And they're fully
games.
booked all day.
They are fully booked all day. Yesterday we started at 10 a.m. and finished at 11 p.m. and had people playing demo games the whole way through. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. So the others in our show who've split off to do their own thing, they don't know a whole lot about tabletop. It's mainly me and James behind the camera here are the big tabletop guys.
Cool.
But Chaosium is, I would say, depending on the given time of the year, top 3. I would call it the second biggest tabletop organization.
It's one of the biggest. The biggest would be Wizards of the Coast, which publishes Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Paizo is also a very big company.
Yes.
They publish
Pathfinder.
Yeah. And Chaosium would be up there as one of the bigger companies. But I've got to be clear on this. Wizards of the Coast is a much, much bigger company.
They're the Microsoft to that space.
They kind of have a 10-story building with their logo on it. We don't have that.
Yeah. The reason I mention this is because the tabletop scene is not just at PAX here, but just internationally, it's having a pop culture moment. I guess it's in the 70s almost. Or it's how does it feel for you guys to be in the epicenter of this movement right
It's
now?
a lot of fun. Yeah, so tabletop gaming is very popular, and a big thing that's driven that is something called actual play, where you watch people play games.
Yeah.
There is a very well-known group called Critical Role, which most people are familiar with, but there are others as well. And what they do is they play the games on stage or on streaming or whatever, and people can get to watch it and see how the games are played and interact with the characters and the settings and things like that.
What do you think it is about tabletop gaming that captures our imagination? Whether it not just from Critical Role and actual plays, but also the teams in Stranger Things playing their games, and that's exploded into the real world.
I'm going to tell you something about Stranger Things. So they might be playing Dungeons and Dragons in that TV show, the characters, but they're actually in a Call of Cthulhu scenario. Okay.
Yeah, they totally are.
Yeah. But well, it's a great social activity where you can express your imagination. There are popular settings that you can engage with and learn more about and explore yourself and create yourself. There are just so many different ways that you can express your own creativity inside a tabletop RPG.
I think that's what it's all about, is the creativity aspect, because books are seeming to have a bit of a slump at the moment. But tabletop and storytelling is almost as strong as it's ever been. Mm-hmm. Whether you look at streaming TV shows, whatever, but specifically tabletop, it's exploding into movies, video games. It's got the online components, whether it's Dungeons & Dragons Online, but virtual tabletops.
Yep.
So it's how do you feel about the revolutionizing of the technology behind our storytelling in tabletop?
Well, there was this thing called COVID, which we all kind of still remember, and that led to a very big explosion of people playing online. A lot of people hadn't done that before.
Yeah.
But then that really, for a lot of people, became the only option to do so because of all the things that were going on. And a lot of people then discovered, hey, that's a lot of fun. And that's a way to keep playing and play with people that aren't necessarily nearby. Yeah. And so that has led to a big explosion of people being able to play with people all around the world. It's been really great.
It's really interesting because tabletop gaming, whether it's Magic the Gathering or Call of Cthulhu, I have the Vice President here, everyone. I just want to ask a question.
Okay. Yeah.
Cthulhu? How do we say it?
Well, it's one of these ineffable mysteries. It could be pronounced all sorts of ways. So there's no right or wrong way of saying it. And
I'm sorry, Mike. I know that's a bit of a... Is it a GIF or a GIF question?
I say Cthulhu. Other people say Cthulhu. There's other different ways of saying it. But you know what? We actually say with our games, there is no right or wrong way to play the games either. Okay?
Yeah.
We have a set of rules in our game. If you want to change the rules when you're playing it,
it's about your group and how you want to play.
Exactly.
Which is the point I was going to make before I had that brain fart about the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Is it's so good at connecting people. Tabletop gaming, like whether it's like online or in person. We were talking to one of your DMs, gamekeeper, sorry.
Yeah.
Jack Squarepeg.
Okay.
And he was saying that there's an initiative to bring tabletop to prisons.
Okay.
To like help that in a kind of like a therapy sense, help people communicate. Like, do you think tabletop can be used as a really great social tool?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Like, have you done outreach before, or is this something that's kind of new to? Well,
no.
you. I don't mean like Chaosium itself, but like, have you guys seen this before, or is this something?
Yeah. And we do a lot of stuff with schools.
Yeah.
With RPG clubs and things like that. Conventions are just one way that people get together. There are also gaming clubs where people play together, and there's also online versions of that as well.
Now, if we could pivot to business.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
But it's not very often we get to talk to people from the business.
All right.
In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of drama in the tabletop space.
Yeah.
Because a certain big company made certain changes to their licenses.
They did.
There was a bit of a blowback,
There was.
That.
Yep.
What are the challenges you guys face as a company when it comes to licensing and licensing agreements? How do you balance the need to protect your own commercial assets, but also encourage creativity from your customers and the community at large?
That's a very good question. And what we've done at Chaosium are several things. One is we actually work with our friends at Paizo after the whole Wizards of the Coast open license debacle. Paizo spearheaded creating a new open game license called the Orc license.
Yep.
And we were actually I think we were the first company to get on board with our friends at Paizo to say, we're going to release our core game that's kind of like the chassis of all of our role-playing games, basic role-playing under the Orc license, so people can release things royalty-free, and they don't need any editorial approval from us or anything.
That's fantastic.
And to further encourage that, we did something called the Basic Role-Playing Design Challenge, where we had $10,000 that we gave to 10 finalists and winners to help develop their games.
Wow.
And we had 129 entries. No, it was 195 entries for that. So it was a really challenging job to pick out 10 into our shortlist, and then we picked 3 winners. They got $2,500, and then all the finalists got $500.
Yeah. It's a hard line to walk, isn't it? Because it's like you have your property, but then like when you even with us, if we play Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu, it's kind of like the death of the author emerges, where it's like, well, it's our game too. We're playing at home.
Totally, so it is totally your game.
I've always been sympathetic to the idea that if you want to publish something online, sometimes you have to be careful about the legality.
I will give you an example of that. So, Greg Stafford, the founder of our company, who sadly died a few years ago, when he released a game called RuneQuest, which is set in the world of Glorantha, he said from the very, very beginning, your Glorantha may vary. Okay, so if you're going to play a game set in this setting, this fantasy world that he created, your game is going to be different to his. The way you imagine things. And he eventually changed that from your Glorantha may vary. He made it even more definite. He said, no, your Glorantha will vary.
Yeah. I suppose,
So our view is there is no right or wrong way of playing something.
Yeah.
We've created these rules, we've got this setting, and you can take it, and away you go.
That's really encouraging to hear, because sometimes a lot of the people like myself who aren't like law smart, we'll read these licenses and I'm like, well, I guess it means this, and you have to Google it and all that. So it's always encouraging to hear someone, encourage the community to be creative.
So we've also created what are called community content programs, and this is like the Dungeons and Dragons has, it's called the DM's Guild, the Dungeon Masters Guild. So we have similar programs for Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest and our Pendragon game.
Yep.
And that's where independent creators can create things using our IP and get paid for it.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
On a side note, we're in a really interesting moment with technology as well, with large language models, or AI, as it's the term's thrown around. There's been some controversy about creators across all tabletop communities using AI-generated artwork and scenarios, and then people feeling ripped off by that because that doesn't have, pardon my expression, the human spirit behind it.
Yep.
Like, how do you personally, as a creative yourself and as a representative of Chaosium, how do you guys feel about AI and the potential threats and positives that it might suggest?
Very
I'm
good
personally
question.
against it. I just want to make that clear for
Okay.
creative work.
So, we actually put out a statement from Chaosium very early in the piece about AI art, saying we will not publish anything with AI art.
Yeah.
So anything that we release is going to be human created work.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And there's two reasons for that. There's the ethical reason, because a lot of these language models have and art models have scraped the internet and used things without permission.
Yep.
And that's an issue. And so if artists need to be fairly compensated if that's how it works, and they should be able to opt in, etc., etc. The other is, and this is just purely from a business perspective, at the moment you cannot copyright an AI piece of art.
I didn't think about that. That's a tricky thing, isn't it?
So that makes it very difficult to do commercially released products with AI art in it, because you don't own the art.
Yeah.
So put those two reasons together, and that's why we don't do it. We put that statement out kind of before AI writing became a thing, but we use this. We have the same
like a blanket disclaimer
thing with that.
Yeah.
We don't use AI art. You don't use AI writing. I will say though, if you're going to, we can't stop you doing whatever you want to do when you're running your games at home and things like that. We're not going to interfere with that. But in terms of what we publish, the way we do it, we're not using it.
That's encouraging, because it's everywhere, and it's also, it feels cheap. Like, I think that the best content we can talk about comes from us. It's the stories that we tell around our table, which kind of leads me to what I was going to ask you about, some more personal questions.
Okay.
Out of all the games you've played,
yes,
is there one campaign that just sticks with you to this day? Like that one campaign where you thought, this is magic?
Well, there's quite a few. So I've been playing tabletop RPGs for a very long time. Back when I was at secondary school, my friend didn't buy the RuneQuest role-playing game. I don't think it may not have even been available. He bought a RuneQuest supplement for it. In fact, the first ever RuneQuest supplement for the game.
Yep.
It was called Apple Lane, and we'd been playing D&D.
Yeah.
This is in, by the way, 1979.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of dating me here.
No, that's okay.
Anyway, we got this RuneQuest book, and we tried to figure out how to play RuneQuest by reverse engineering the game statistics that were in it and things like that. And we must have really liked it, because now I'm one of the owners of Chaosium. I actually own the RuneQuest RPG. So
that's
all
awesome.
began back in 1979 when I was 13.
The name of your favorite character?
My favorite character would be RuneQuest actually has anthropomorphic ducks in it.
Yep.
And I had a duck character whose name was Anaximander.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
That's awesome. One of the final questions I had for you was, Call of Cthulhu, I would say, is like one of your main exports.
Yep.
What is it about Lovecraft's dark and mysterious universe that still engages people to this day, whether it's movie adaptations or just the continuing campaigns and adventures that take place in your game?
Well, it's dark and mysterious for a start. That helps.
We always say it's the madness. Like when you see something that the brain can't comprehend, there's just something interesting about it. We talk about it all the time.
One of the great things is the core setting for Call of Cthulhu is the 1920s in New England. But in actual fact, the game works really well in all sorts of settings and genres.
Yeah.
So we've released Gaslight, which is set in the 1890s in London. Yeah. And then you can kind of bring in all the Jack the Ripper type stuff and everything.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I never even thought about that.
We have Regency Cthulhu, so that's like Bridgerton with extra tentacles.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
There's an ancient Roman setting, there's a modern setting, there's Down Darker Trails, which is in the Wild West.
Yeah.
So Call of Cthulhu is a game that can go across all sorts of interesting eras and genres.
Yeah, fantastic. I've got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
So you were originally a part of Moon Design Publishing?
Oh, you've done your research.
I did a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they acquired Chaosium, or the two merged. Can you talk about the circumstances behind that acquisition?
Yep. So, I have written for role-playing games for a very long time.
Yeah.
And some of my friends who were involved in that, we did a fanzine in the 1990s.
Cool.
Called Tales of the Reaching Moon.
Yeah.
And that was so long ago. That was before the internet and everything, right?
Yeah.
So I did that with a colleague in the UK. And we'd actually send each other letters. You remember those? Yeah, put a stamp on it and things like that. Yeah. Then we got a fax machine. Ooh, that was high tech. One of my colleagues from that then got a license from Greg Stafford to bring out some of old out of print books, and he set up a company called Moon Design Publications to do that.
Yep.
And then eventually go down another 10 years or 15 years. Moon Design Publications, which I then joined with 2 other colleagues, we bought Chaosium.
Yeah.
And so we are the co-owners of the company now.
Yeah.
We bought it from Greg Stafford.
Yep. And was that a risky proposition at the time?
That was an extremely risky proposition because the company had done 2 Kickstarters that they hadn't fulfilled, and it did cost several $1 million to fulfill those Kickstarters.
Well, I think it paid off because, I'm not going to get into financials, but it seems like you guys are, at least people are very interested. If not, it's very successful.
Yeah. And I didn't have a plan B, which probably helped, so we were all in. But it did take us a while to turn all that around. And now onwards and upwards. And I think PAX is a really good example of just how popular it all is. So we're really happy. We also did, I don't know if you saw the live game we did on stage. We had loads of people come to that. And last month I did a Call of Cthulhu live game at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh, wow.
Which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And so we're sort of bringing actual play into a theatrical art form as well.
My last question for you, Mike, it's a bit of a cheeky one.
Okay.
So feel free to not answer it.
Okay.
Tabletop gaming, specifically D&D, it's branching out into movies again.
Yep.
Do you remember the 2000 movie? Was it 2000?
Oh, the one with Jeremy Irons? Yeah, I do remember that
it's
one.
It's once again in the movies and video games and comics.
I like the recent one. I thought was awesome.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
They need to make another one. Chris Pine, if you're listening, please try to get that done.
Yeah. I'm all for that, Chris. There's a very good chance he is a viewer here, so it'll get to him.
That's right. Is Chaosium interested in expanding from the tabletop to the screen? Because I know you guys had a video game once, the Call of Cthulhu game, which was fantastic anyway. But is that something you guys have thought about, or maybe potentially?
Oh yeah, we're way beyond thinking about that. So yeah, we have various irons in the fire about
that's awesome.
Film and TV. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. Well, we'll keep our eyes out.
I'd love it to happen. It's one of those high risk, high reward things.
Yeah, that's it.
But we'll see.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for spending time with us here today.
My pleasure.
Where can we
enjoy
find
the
you?
rest of PAX. You can find us at chaosium.com. Chaosium is an Australian company, an American company.
Yep.
But we do have about, I think it's 8 or 9 people working for Chaosium here, mainly in Melbourne.
Yep. And I believe there's a Chaosium Con next year, is it?
Chaosium Con, 28th and 29th of June. And, then this is very appropriate for where your audience is. It's at the Moonee Valley Racecourse.
Excellent. Well, we'll try to be there.
Please do. Please come along. You can come and do some interviews and things.
Actually, we'd love to. We were talking about that before, yeah. Thank you so much, Mike.
My pleasure. Enjoy the rest of PAX.